Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Do we have any alternates with us this evening? I thought I saw Lori there with us. Hi, Lori. Good to have you. Okay. We have our consider approval of the last meeting minutes. Anyone wish to make a motion to accept?
Move approval.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Set next board meeting and location. Kent.
Yeah, I've tentatively got September 22nd for our next meeting date, and I've put the location to be determined because I think we'll be in person at that point in time. I believe by the end of the month, our ability to do this will be no longer in existence. So I need to find a place that's big enough for all of us, and I'll follow up and talk to you, Mr. Chairperson, about where that might be.
Oh, very good. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thank you.
Is there any public discussion on any item not on the agenda? If not, transportation planning. Brad.
Thank you, Brad Newman, Associate Transportation Planner. Again, this is our final TIP for the FY 22 to 25 for your approval. The annual TIP is our local programming document for federal and state surface transportation and transit projects. At your last meeting, you may remember you approved the draft TIP projects, just the list for both surface transportation and transit projects. This included the transit apportionment, which you approved at your January meeting. You remember the MPO received over $2.9 million for FTA Section 5307 operating assistance funding. And these funds were apportioned to the 3 transit agencies in our urbanized area. And we used the FY19 formula, which was pre-COVID-19. So we had good numbers up until then. Since then, the numbers are just a little out of whack. So the TIP also included 3 new surface transportation block grant projects, or STBG projects, that were also awarded by the board earlier this year. The 3 STBG projects were programmed in FY25 and include Iowa City's Taft Avenue reconstruction project, and that received $3.5 million in STBG funds. Coralville's Highway 6 and Deer Creek Road project, which received $864,000. And University Heights Sunset Street pavement repair project, they received $115,440 in STBG funds. North Liberty also received funding for their Renshaw Way Phase 6 reconstruction project, and they received $2.9 million. But due to the funding target constraints, we moved that program back to FY26 in the programming, and that'll be included in next year's TIP. So that'll be the FY23 to 26 TIP. The one transportation alternatives program project that you awarded funding to was Iowa City's Highway 6 Trail project, and that's between Broadway and Fair Meadows. That received $520,000. And that will also be programmed in FY26 due to those same target constraints. It'll be included in next year's TIP. Since you approved the draft TIP, we made a couple changes, and those were requested by the Iowa DOT. We removed North Liberty's Renshaw Way Zeller to Hawkeye project, STBG project, and Iowa City's IWV Road STBG project. Both those were programmed in FY21 and are now under contract for construction. So that means all projects under construction or under contract with DOT have been removed from this TIP. All STBG and TAP projects not completed in FY21 automatically roll over to FY22, and we add 4% for inflation on the total project cost for those, just the projects that the board funded. All Iowa DOT projects in the planning area are included in the TIP. And you remember the MPO board opted out of the federal aid swap at your March meeting, which means all local projects will continue to be programmed and completed according to the federal guidelines as they have in the past. In addition to the project list, there's quite a bit of information in the TIP, and some of that includes project status reports. Regionally significant projects are identified. The MPO's public input process is included. The project selection procedures that we use for STBG and TAP projects, including the scoring criteria, are included. There's a fiscal constraint review of the TIP projects, a financial analysis of the transit projects, and statements regarding performance-based planning measures for highway safety, pavement and bridge, freight reliability, transit asset management, and transit safety. The MPO did publish public hearing notice 30 days in advance of the meeting. All agencies on their public input list were contacted, and public notice posters were placed in all the fixed route buses in the metropolitan area. We have not received any comments regarding the TIP. So staff is requesting approval of the final FY22 to 25 TIP. Once it's approved, we will submit this to the Iowa DOT, Federal Highway Administration, and the Federal Transit Administration by July 15th. Are there any questions on the TIP document before we go into the public hearing?
Anything for Brad? If not, now's the time for a public hearing in regards to the fiscal year 22 through 25 MPOJC Transportation Improvement Program. As I understand from you, Brad, there were no written comments or submitted comments, correct?
No, we have not received any comments.
Thank you. Anyone online or participating wish to make public comment? If not, call the public hearing to a close. We will now consider a resolution adopting the fiscal year 22 through 25 Transportation Improvement Program for the Iowa City Urbanized area and authorizing the MPO chair to sign associated documents contained therein. Those documents should be on about page 12 of the information that you had. So anyone wish to establish that resolution?
So moved, Sullivan.
Burner, second.
Moved and seconded. Any final discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposing? None opposed. The resolution is carried. Next, we consider a resolution certifying compliance with federal requirements for conducting the urban transportation planning process in the Iowa City urbanized area. This should have been on or about page 13 of your material if you had any questions. If not, anyone wish to establish that resolution?
I'll move that as Hoffman.
Is there a second?
Second, Thomas.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed?
Aye.
We have one nay. Who was that, please?
I think that was Louise, but I think maybe, Mr. Chairperson, that one just came in a little bit late. Louise, you are in favor of the resolution, is that correct?
Aye.
I would take that as a yes.
I voted aye. I voted yes.
Okay, thanks, Louise.
Yeah.
Okay, so unanimously carried. Next item, Kent, yours.
Yes, thank you. Kent Ralston, Executive Director. Good to see everyone and thanks for joining us. Since your last meeting, staff's been busy gathering public input, finalizing our travel demand model, as well as drafting some plan chapters for the revision to our long-range transportation plan. As you all know, we've been giving you updates pretty much every meeting since about the first of the year, and this meeting's no different. Attached in your packet, you'll find the draft plan chapters for the bicycle and pedestrian networks, the passenger transportation, freight network, and aviation. And then you can see in your memo, you're not receiving these chapters sequentially. We're basically just putting them together as time allows and as data becomes available. So you can see we've got the framework there in your memo for the Future Forward 2050 plan, we're calling it. And we're basically sort of providing you with some of the last chapters, but they're all the different modal chapters that we've been working on. Later this summer and fall, you'll be getting some of the other chapters, the background, regional context, guiding principles, so on and so forth. But the good news is that you'll receive the entire document once again about the first of the year for our public process, as well as approval by this board. And then it has to be finalized by May of next year. So we just want to get some of this information in your hands early, because otherwise we'll be dropping about a 200-page document in your laps, and we'd rather not give that to you all at once. So I don't need anything from you all today unless you have any questions or comments about the material included. But again, just want to get it in your hands. We did have a public meeting on the passenger transportation, freight, and aviation chapters on June 30th, so I guess just last week. And then back in May, we had the same public meeting for the bicycle and pedestrian network chapter. So we've been doing our best to get people interested and get people excited. And I'm happy to answer any questions or take comments that you might have. But again, just keep in mind, you'll get the entire document about the first of the year for your review.
Just out of curiosity.
Please,
Ken,
Laura, go ahead.
thanks. Did any members of the public participate in those meetings?
We did. We had about a handful for the bike and ped chapter, and maybe about the same for the passenger transportation, freight, and aviation. I will say it's a little bit different this year in that we just got done with the update to the Metro bike plan about last year. And then, as you know, Laura, the Iowa City Council adopted a bike master plan of their own a few years back. And then also Coralville Transit, Iowa City Transit, and CAN Bus have been working really heavily on the transit networks and changing things around. So I think folks are getting a little bit wore out on surveys and public meetings with respect to these chapters and these modes of travel. So a little different this year. In past years, we've had upwards of maybe even 100 or so individuals at some of these meetings. So much less this year. But I will say also, when we advertised for these, we sort of made it clear that, especially for transit, we were not really asking for the public's input on transit routes, for instance, because that was just accomplished and in fact hasn't even been implemented yet. So it seemed a little bit silly to ask that question. It's really more of getting all that information under the same cover with respect to this long range plan. So a little bit different process for us, but we are getting a little bit of interest, and we have had some surveys as well, which have gotten much better results.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Please don't put the final report in small print or it'll knock me out right now.
We'll do our best.
All right. Next item, update on DOT district, nope, excuse me, Brad, update on Eastern Iowa electric vehicle readiness plan.
Yes, thank you. The Eastern Iowa Electric Vehicle Readiness Plan was initiated by the City of Iowa City and with funding from the Iowa Economic Development Authority. It included representatives from Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids, Davenport, Dubuque, and Iowa City, of course, and then it also included the MPOJC participated in the plan development. The plan includes strategies for increasing local and regional investment in electric vehicle and charging station or infrastructures, education and outreach, policies for municipalities, and regional coordination. The plan has been completed and there's an executive summary attached in your packet. And you might notice somewhere in that executive summary that the plan does include involving the MPOs throughout Eastern Iowa in coordination efforts. So MPOJC will continue to be involved in that process. They also recommend that we include the EV readiness plan in all the MPO's long-range transportation plan. And of course, we're going through that development now, which will be approved in the spring. So we will include information regarding the EV plan in that document. Also, Sarah Gardner, who is the Iowa City's Climate Action Engagement Specialist, is available to present to your council or board and provide more information on that plan. And we just got the link to the final plan, and we'll include that on our website. So that should be available soon. If anyone's interested, you can go to our website and take a look at the entire plan. Are there any questions on the plan, or it's quite extensive? Got a lot of work to do.
Have you received any feedback from the utility companies on this?
I know there's been discussions with those folks, but I'm not aware of that discussion. But they are involved.
Okay.
Yes. And they involve quite a few people. They involve the dealerships for cars and a whole bunch of people, because they all have to be on board to get this done. So
yeah.
DOT is heavily involved as well, especially for the establishment of the infrastructure. They'll play a big role in that.
Okay.
Yeah, and just Brad mentioned it, but I just wanted to reiterate for you all and your respective councils. Sarah Gardner did mention she's more than happy to come and speak to your councils about this. So if you want a complete overview of the plan or have questions, Sarah's, well, she's very, very good at this, and she'd be more than happy to come.
Anything else from the group on this subject? Very good. Catherine, nice to see you. Give us
Hi,
an update
everybody.
on I-38080.
Sure. Oh, that set off my dogs when I said hi. So Staff Engineer Mark Harley and I are here to talk about the rebuild of 8380. Then we're going to move east and talk about First Avenue and I-80, and then move over to Triple H Highway and I-80 and talk about that project as well. So I've got a PowerPoint I'll share here.
Kathy, would you like to do that yourself? Otherwise, I can't pass that presentation along if you'd like me to move slides.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Let's do that.
1 second, I'll get that open here.
Yeah, and while they're pulling that up, I invited Kathy and Mark to give this update. It's been a little while since we've heard from the DOT, at least as this group's concerned, and I thought it'd be nice just as summer's getting going here to hear how they're doing and make sure we're on track.
Yeah, so
All right, is that presentation up for everybody?
I
Yes.
can see it. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So this showed the old clover leaf. What we're actually replacing out there was built in the 60s and really is an outdated design for the amount, especially of freight traffic we're seeing. It had become a safety issue for us with a lot of trucks tipping over. That obviously causes delay to traffic as well as air quality implications when traffic is parked on the interstate. So it was just time to replace that one. So go ahead, please. The future interchange replaces the 4 loops with what we call directional ramps. That will allow especially truck traffic to maintain their speeds so they won't have to slow down to 10, 20 miles an hour and then try to merge into faster moving interstate traffic. Instead, they'll be going about 45, 50, much more closely matched to what's happening on the interstate. In addition, I-80 is going to be widened to 6 lanes west of I-380. Widened to 8 lanes east of I-380, and I-380 and 218 will each have 6 lanes, and all areas will have 12-foot shoulders. What that allows us to do is in the future is to run traffic on those shoulders should we need to. Also provides great storage for snow removal operations. Next slide, please. The benefits we're seeing, as I mentioned, are to increase capacity and improve operations within this region, reduce excessive congestion and improve safety, improve travel reliability, which is a great emphasis of the DOT going forward. We're pretty much built out in the state of Iowa as far as the road system. What our next steps are is to always make it the safest road we can have and then make it the most reliable road we have so people can depend on it to get where they're going in the amount of time they have allotted. A secondary benefit is always supporting regional employment and economic growth. I heard a shout out earlier to Tiffin. Certainly the area is just booming with growth and we want to be able to support that with our network. Next slide. Some of our major accomplishments last year, we got our first directional ramp open. So that was I-80 eastbound to US, I-80 eastbound to US 218 southbound. Next slide. We have extensive amount of information about the project and the impacts on our website. So I'd encourage people to go there if you don't already. We push out a lot of stuff on social media. This particular map, although it's tiny for us, if you go to the website and look and hover over any of those letters, it'll show you the particular impact there. We try to color code everything so it makes it more intuitive for people. Next slide. This is what we call kind of our heat map for impacts. Here we are in 2021, a very red impact as far as traffic. Unfortunately, the next 2 years, 2022 and 2023, are also going to be red. We're going to have a lot of traffic impacts, a lot of switches to traffic. We don't do things quickly, so there's not like every week changing, but it could be a year at a time, you're going to be going in a different direction. We work very closely with the commuters and the people that use the interstate. Real specifically, we've been working with UIHC so that the hospitals are aware and can direct, especially ambulance traffic, how to get around our project. In addition, we're reaching out to university athletics, making sure that especially football traffic knows that they're going to be impacted and they're going to be able to deal with it. Next slide, please. I think Mark is going to take over here and talk about some of our longer term closures for this year.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. So this is the first of, and this one already closed in December. This is the 218 northbound to the 80 westbound loop. And this is going to be closed for the entirety of the project, or at least until the end of 23 with it when the new ramp is opened. And as Kathy mentioned, this is the big one that we've talked about with the university as far as impacts during game day traffic. And then you can see it's kind of tough to see on the map, but the green lines, the sign detour for this is up north to Forever Green. There's also showing kind of the option of using Coral Ridge as well. So you can advance to the next one. And this is, and we're calling this a long-term closure, but it's not as significant as maybe some of the other impacts. This is the eastbound on-ramp at Ireland Avenue. So the impacts on this one are maybe a little more localized, but not as much in terms of traffic volume. And that ramp only gets a few hundred vehicles a day. And this one is slated to begin sometime this summer. I think it's slipped about a month, or maybe it might be a month or two, based on the contractor's progress on the I-80 median work. So that one will be kind of late summer, early fall, with the detour you can see up to 6, and using 6 in Tiffin and Coralville with a little bit additional traffic on Ireland as well. And you can move to the next one. And this is kind of the last major closure. We're highlighting this 80 westbound to 218 southbound. And like the first one, this one's going to, once it closes, it's going to be down kind of until the majority of the new interchange is built. So this again will have a new ramp. And so, again, it's hard to see those green lines going off to the west, but this one can't begin until the Ireland closure is complete, because it uses that 80 eastbound on ramp at Ireland as part of the detour, or the at least the official signed detour. So the contractor is looking at some options, I think, on this one as well, trying to see if there's a way to make any changes with that delay to the 80 median work. But we would anticipate this would be in the fall as well, that this would close. And that's, you can move to the next slide.
So obviously we have a lot of impacts to commuters. We do a lot of outreach via social media. We honestly haven't had a lot of people reach back to us and say, hey, I had an issue. I'm talking about less than 10 a year. So we're considering it fairly successful that we're getting our messaging out there. Still pleased that the 380 Express bus is running. Appreciate the support of ECOG, our RPA, in managing that contract for us. Still pushing rideshare with your neighbors and coworkers whenever that can be accomplished. Of course, we didn't know COVID was coming and people were going to start teleworking, but really that's been a bit of a silver lining for us, as it's helped us with some traffic issues. Always consider telecommuting, and we always push people to get the latest information at our 511ia.org. That will push real-time travel alerts to your mobile device, to your computer at home, letting you make your best decision whether you want to travel or not. Next slide, please. Just a little more information about that 380 Express. We had about 46,000 total rides so far. The daily ridership is around 156 people. The highest was in February. This is from this year, and then from 2020, excuse me. And then it dropped off kind of understandably in April to 100, but the numbers have been climbing back up. So we're going to continue to push out messaging on that. Our popular stops are at the Kirkwood Park and Ride, and then at UIHC. 80% of those riders use the token transit, so that's a nice way to be able to use your smartphone to be able to buy passes and use that to make transfers to any of the other local bus systems. Next slide. As I mentioned, we have lots of different ways to keep informed and involved about the project. We get a lot of information out on our Facebook page. We do have a hotline that people can call if they have questions or comments. Again, pushing our 511ia.org system. Next slide. I guess that's it. So with that, if there's any questions about 8380, we can take a pause now and take those. Okay, Mark, do you want to start talking about Herbert Hoover Highway?
Yeah, I can. So that project is of course currently under construction. Started earlier this spring. We just got, I think last week, the Westbound on ramp reopened after it was closed for a couple months. And as far as the current work right now is a lot of grading for bridge berms and the what we call ramp A, the westbound off ramp. We've also got some, I think, longer 100-day settlement time periods for some of the new embankments there. So it's going to be a lot of grading into this fall with and starting on bridge work with kind of fewer traffic impacts. So we'll have some closures next year as that project moves into it's a 2-year construction of the interchange project. We'll also have I think this December we have the letting for the main line 80 widening work in that area, and which will continue. So there'll be a lot going on in that area. But in terms of traffic impacts, I think we've tried to space them out, and of course we've also had to work with the county and the city on some of the kind of combined projects that are going on with Herbert Hoover Highway, as well as some of the stuff the city has on that side of town. So that project is progressing and should be on schedule as of now. So I think that's all I had on that one, Kathy, if you want to talk about First Avenue.
Okay, I should mention Mark Harley is our new area engineer. He's not really new, he's been here quite a while. He replaced Newman, so Rod Sullivan, you no longer can say hello Newman. You can say hello Mark, because here he is. So back to 80 First Avenue, the city of Coralville received a build grant, which was a great thing, accelerated our project there to rebuild that interchange into a diverging diamond interchange. That traffic actually crosses in the middle. It's a design that's fairly new to Iowa, but not new to the country. Really great at handling left turning traffic, which we have a lot of at this location. So Coralville's been a great partner with us as we've kind of scrambled. The DOT has taken over the contract as far as the design and will be administering the build contract then. Some of the challenges in the area are, I think people know, we have the Magellan complex there. We need to be very mindful of those pipelines crossing not only First Avenue, but the interstate, how we're going to protect those, how we're going to improve this interchange so that those tanker trucks that pull out don't have to block First Avenue anymore. They'll have a better and improved access to First Avenue and subsequently the interstate system. Utilities in general are challenging in this area just because they're built out. Again, working very closely with Coralville to proceed through those issues. Obviously, we need to keep this traffic moving as we build the project. So a lot of work is going into how we're going to stage the project, keeping both vehicular traffic and pedestrian and bicycle traffic, since we have the modal building right there at Iowa River Landing. The letting currently is planned for August of 2022. Right now, thinking that will keep us on track for that letting. So happy to take any questions about First Avenue. Or anything DOT, we're here to help.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Mark, good to have you on board. We'll be a familiar face with us, I think, for a long time to come.
All right. Yes. Thank you. Good to join.
Good. Again, thank you for participating. I really appreciate that. Okay. Any other business by the group? If not, we'll call it a wrap for the night, and thank you for your time and participation. We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.